Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another edition of Ranking the Albums. Today we got Mr. Ryan Skow and Mr. Nicholas Franco joining myself here for a ranking of the 4 studio albums of the legendary Norwegian black metal act Emperor. Probably like the golden standard, right? When you talk about
for me, it is
Norwegian black metal, right? At least
For
one
me,
of them.
absolutely very high on the list.
Yeah, one of the finest iterations of extreme metal in general. Black metal, definitely, they are one of my enduring favorites for a long time.
Yeah. Ihsahn and Company, possibly the band that kind of created the whole symphonic atmospheric black metal tag, right? I mean, kind of.
I can't think of anybody that did it before them or did it as well as them, either on either of those counts.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
so we got 4 albums here, 4 studio albums, full lengths. I will say all 4 of these albums are pretty different from each other for the most part.
Cool. I agree.
Right?
They,
all 4 pretty damn good. Good to great to legendary, right?
I'd say there's not a dud in the bunch as far as I'm concerned.
Exactly. Which, even though it's only 4, it made this kind of hard. But kind of not, if that makes any sense. So it'll be interesting to see how similar we are when we do this. So I'm going to let Nick kick us off with his number 4, and then we'll go to Ryan, then we'll go myself, and we'll kind of go round robin there.
Okay. Well, so my 4th choice here for Emperor is Prometheus, The Discipline of Fire and Demise, their final studio album. Came out in 2001, and it was mostly written and conceived by Ihsahn, who is the main guy in the band. At that point, I think his bandmate Samoth was wanted to concentrate on more black metal, death metal, more like just a slightly different
Zyklon at the time, yeah.
Zyklon, yeah, more of a rocking sort of direction. And this album, a lot of purists will have a lot of problems with it, because it's not the typical old sound. It's very proggy, but it's still got very, very rough. It's very well produced, but I think it's a very, very heavy album. Yet the keyboards in it, which, while not as prominent as the old days, to me are every bit as black metal as you could want. And I think this record gets overlooked a lot in their discography. I would say it's probably my least favorite, but having said that, it's still an album. And I got back into it recently, to listen for this. I haven't listened to it in a while, and it still sounds amazing, but it is my 4th favorite.
There you go.
Yeah.
I wonder if we're going to have similar lists here, because my number 4 is also Prometheus. And let me make a note that this band, when they started, their early album art is some of not only my favorite black metal art, but some of my favorite art in metal ever. And we'll get to those albums. But this album, I got to say, it's the thing I like least about it. I'll take it out of the cover here to avoid glare. It's just like a gray, black and white mishmash. Like, there's really, I know I've looked at it long and hard, and I really can't figure out what the hell's going on. But like Nick said, the album, it's to me, it almost sounds like the first Ihsahn solo album, because after this, he would go on to do multiple solo albums, which honestly, I'm personally not a big fan of. I kind of take it or leave it. If someone puts it on, I'm okay with it. But I would consider this almost the best Ihsahn solo album or the worst Emperor album in a way. But either way, I think it's very good. Like Nick said, very, very heavy, very bombastic, I guess is the word. They've always been bombastic, but this is bombastic in kind of like a slightly different way, more of a progressive way. I know almost it's hard to try to articulate what I'm thinking here, but I still think it's a great album, like solid 8 out of 10. Because the worst Emperor album is still better than most other metal, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah,
Agreed.
We're all on the same page here.
Yeah.
So, it's definitely very progressive, I think. More of like a progressive metal album. In spots, it's almost like a technical death metal album. Like when I listen to this album, I don't hear a lot of black metal. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think Ihsahn's vocals, he's got all sorts of different flavors and styles he's doing on this album too, which I kind of like. it's almost like a solo album for him though, because other than like Trim's drums, it's like, I mean, he's doing everything else on here for the most part. And I think this is the direction he wanted to go in. But you know, some great songs on here, you know, Empty and Depraved, Tongue of Fire, really, really good stuff. The guitar work is fantastic. A lot of good solos. And I think Nick mentioned that relying a little bit less on all the big synth and keyboard orchestrations, although they're still there and they're still very effective. But it's a really classy, mature, almost slick kind of album for them.
It is. That's a good word for it. Slick. Yeah.
Yeah, right? But it's not in a bad way, though. And I think you're absolutely correct. This either is the best Isan solo album or the least effective Emperor album, but it's still a great album.
It is.
And excellent lyrics. Excellent lyrics.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They've always had, on all everything they ever did, I've always thought very lyrically good. Just a quality, you know, well-written stuff, you know, interesting to read along as you're listening to it, which is not always the case with black metal. Sometimes it's a little stupid, you know, which I like stupid stuff, but this is an instance where that's not the case.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Nick, you're number 3.
Okay, so I'm probably going to wind up turning everything on its head and causing a lot of aggravation. So that's where we may differ. I thought a lot about how I was going to proceed with this because, you know, there's a lot of pressure in I guess all of like extreme metal, but in black metal in particular, like you can't fuck with the eternal classics, you know, anything that came out past a certain year, people just want to say didn't have any validity. I don't play that game at all. And that's why, after thinking long and hard, I'm going to go with In the Nightside Eclipse, which is their debut, which I know. I know.
Ryan and I were both like, well,
no, you can rain all kinds of scorn on me all you want. Remember,
I will.
I know, that's fine. And I'm sure I'll get, you know, screamed at in the comments as well. But, you know, I thought about it, and remember, we're up here. We're talking about a band that's at the pinnacle of our tastes, right? We just said it before. Emperor, even the worst Emperor album is better than most metal albums. In the Nightside Eclipse is one of the finest albums ever, and one of the best, maybe the best cover art, you know, I've maybe ever seen. And you know, it has also Emperor's finest hour to me. In I Am the Black Wizards, the opening of that song is just for readers, for viewers who may not know, that the Greg Holland studio that it was recorded in was a very large cavernous studio that gave it a very echoey, reverby sound that kind of made black metal, you know, and just
that was for mayhem too.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of seminal records were made with that. But you know, for me, now, you know, as much as I love this album, it within their discography, I'm confident placing it third. You know, it's a beautiful album. I'm sure we'll talk about it as you guys go on, obviously. But you know, it's rough, it's evil, it's got that obscure atmosphere, and it's pretty incredible. But I think they did better than that.
Okay.
Yeah. Is what it is, man. At this point,
that's why I like doing these, because they're I'm gonna be Captain Obvious here, and my third or second choice here is their third album from 1999, Nine Equilibrium, which has better art than Prometheus, but not as good as art as the two. So it's kind of like a brown mishmash, you know. Just talk about the art for a second here. But the inside the gatefold, I don't know if I get this on camera here, is fucking awesome. It's like this classic. I'm not actually sure the artist on this. I should have looked that up, but it's like all these bodies and like this very medieval, like gothic Gustave Doré kind of like woodcut thing. And the album, it's very fucking heavy and like symphonic and like big and heavy in equal measure. Like it's just blasting, fast, intense, way more than Prometheus, which is, like we said, progressive. I don't get any progressive vibes from this album, even though it doesn't sound like anything that came before or after. But like some songs like Curse You All Men, The Crystallizing Reason, The Source of Icon E, Elegy of Icaros. It's like just like, if you listen to this driving in the car, it's like you're going 80 miles an hour, like, just pumping your fist. It's like these big booming, like almost sing along parts, and it's a great, great, great fucking album. Absolutely love the hell out of it. Still putting it third, but man, I've listened to this one, I don't know, thousands of times in the last 20 or 21 years since it came out, and you got their heads kind of sitting there too. And there's this Sean, just looking all serious, So, I don't know if this was the best choice in cover art, but I dig it. I'm used, it's one of those deals where I'm kind of used to it now because I've had it for so long. It just becomes familiar. But really, really good, bombastic, heavy, intense, almost nonstop, like viciousness. Which to marry up that level of intensity, like that level of catchiness, and like big symphonic, that's tough to do. A lot of bands can't do that. It's either you got to pick column A or column B, and they managed to do both on this album, which I'm gonna give them a lot of credit for. And there's the drummer, Term wearing a fishing vest there too.
Yeah, that was. They should not have let him wear that. That
No,
guy's
I've
one of
always,
the best drummers
Random
of all
picture
time.
there, right?
The day I bought that album, I'm like, that's a weird choice, but that's their decision. So that's my third choice. Second choice, sorry.
It's mine as well for number 3. I gotta say, I love the cover art on this one.
Yeah, me too.
I really dig it a lot. I just think it's just creepy looking, and and the logo. I mean, we haven't even talked about the Emperor logo, which is just amazing.
Oh yeah,
I mean, Ryan hit it on the head. This is a pretty brutal album. It's weird because it's very polished sounding, but yet it's still brutal and atmospheric. And I think there are moments on here where they're almost approaching kind of death metal to an extent.
it is.
The way the arrangements are set up, right? I mean, it's moving away from the cold, razor sharp, tremolo picked riffs and of the first 2 albums, and I think towards more of, like you mentioned, bombastic, and it totally is that. Tons of great keyboard orchestrations on here. I mean, it's so well done. You mentioned a lot of great songs. Warriors of Modern Death is great. Of Blindness and Subsequent Sears is a kick-ass song. It's so epic. I like the clean and the harsh vocal interplay on Elegy of Icaros. Just a really good album. And you know what? If it wasn't for the other 2, probably could rank even higher. I think it's just another great one from this band who never made a bad album.
Not Equilibrium.
There it is.
Yeah. I would, just to capitalize obviously on what you guys were just saying, I would go so far as I think it's one of the finest extreme metal albums fucking ever. Like I don't know why people shit on this album. Like black metal fans will shit on this album. They're out of their minds. This is, and it isn't just vocal interplay. Like you say, my man does straight up King Diamond vocals on this thing, and the juxtaposition of his scream, which never honestly, his voice.
It's in great form. It really is.
Yeah, I think this is maybe his best vocal performance, like overall. He just sounds so fucking angry. And one of the things about it, because if people look into Emperor's history, when they were young, a few of them went to jail for like church arson and stuff like that. They were part of that whole maniacal fucking thing in Norway. And this lyrically, he basically, in the Warriors of Modern Death, Pete, you were saying, he basically makes a statement in those lyrics that are like, now basically saying, all right, I'm not going to be like lighting shit on fire anymore, but I'm still hateful, and it's going to be through my music, and my intent is still the same. And it's just such a statement. And the arrangements on these songs, Curse You All Men, that's just, oh my, talk about fists through the ceiling of the car. Oh, I heard when this came out, a good friend of mine got it, and that's how I got into Emperor, actually, was with this. I honestly, I got into Emperor with Non Equilibrium. And from there I went, balls deep into black metal. But only this one more album that I haven't mentioned yet is really the only thing that could possibly top this. That's how much I love Non Equilibrium. It's just, it's untouchable. It's perfect. I've spoken.
All right, Ryan, back to you.
All right, so these are, I don't know, if I had to pick top 5 favorite black metal albums of all time, both of these are on the list. And depending on my mood, depending on the weather, depending on the day of the week, either one could be number 1. So I'm gonna go with this one. throw a dart at the board here, and this is their second album, Anthems to the Welkin at Dusk, and this is a perfect heavy metal album, perfect black metal album. The artwork it's done by Stephen O'Malley, and it's a little dark, a little hard to see, but and especially with the glare here, it's kind of hard. You're not gonna be able to make this out on a YouTube video, but if you Google it, if you're not familiar, and this is just a I don't know. I could talk about this album until my head fell off and we ran out of the battery died here. But thus spake the night spirit, the loss and curse of reverence, the acclamation of bonds. This every song on this album is from start to finish perfect. It's the ideal for me of like symphonic black metal. It's grandiose in a way that I don't think any other metal album quite achieves. And there's you can interpret that different ways, like some Iron Maiden songs, like Hallowed Be Thy Name, very big and grandiose in different ways. And this particular album, and like that neoclassical kind of symphonic, kind of like you're alone in this giant like abandoned castle in the north, way up in the woods. It's that vibe, like that's like the capstone on the pyramid for that sound. The keyboards, the guitars, the drums, the vocals, the way it's all woven together. And I forgot the one thing I forgot to look up was how old they were when they made this album. They were pretty young, but I think maybe in their early 20s. And this is like a extremely well thoughtfully composed masterwork from people that are like would normally just be of like college age. I know a lot of bands meet that criteria, like the level of like composition and like just thought that went into this, and like I don't know, to me it's just like one of those things where it's like genius I can't even comprehend because I love it so much, like beyond my ability to perceive like what was going on in their minds when they made this. But yep, that's my stop gushing about that. That's my second choice, and just perfect album. 10 out of 10 out of 10 out of 10. To the end of the paper. So,
yeah, they were 17 or 18. 17 or 18.
That's how old they were.
They were that young when they made this one. I thought they were that young when they made, because this was 1997, and
right. I'm thinking of when they started. Yes, yeah, they were a little bit older.
So still very young. 20 then.
Very young.
Wow.
Very young. Yep.
That's crazy.
Awesome.
All right, my number 2, I'm going to go with In the Nightside Eclipse from 1994. Again, I think one of you guys mentioned the amazing cover art. Let's take a good look at that right there.
Yeah.
It just really exemplifies the music, and just cold, dark, frosty, right? It's what you get by listening to this. This is probably the birth of symphonic black metal right here, in my opinion. It's a violent, raging album, but yet it's so majestic because you've got this harsh, evil, maniacal music just hammering you like crazy, right? But then all these gorgeous prog rock synths and keyboards. It's just at first you think, wow, this is kind of a weird meeting here of these two forces, but it just works spectacularly, right? And I think Isan's vocals on this album is just as raw as it gets. There's no subtlety here whatsoever.
Absolutely.
You got Into the Infinity of Thoughts is just really chilling and cold. You got Cosmic Keys to My Creations and Times. Just the great album song titles. You got Beyond the Great Vast Forest with these just tremendous riffs. I Am the Black Wizards obviously is just classic song. Inoa Satana, just frightening yet beautiful. And then got the guys on the back. Just take one lead. You want to run into these guys in a dark alley? I don't know about that, right? But they were kids, right?
Those are the Turk burning days.
So that's my number 2. Back to you, Nick.
Yeah, and I don't want to, I feel already like I, kind of sold them short on that album. I got to reiterate what you're saying. The fucking thing is incredible. It's absolutely, you throw that on your headphones, go for a walk at night. Fucking hell. It's just absolutely incredible. And just so you guys, the artist was Christian Valine, known as Necrolord.
Necrolord.
That's the cover. Yeah,
he did a lot of great art, and to me that's the best one.
Yeah, those are orcs en route to Minas Morgul. And as a Lord of the Rings nerd, I should have known that. Anyway, so my number 1 Emperor album is Anthems to the Welkin at Dusk. I think it took the promise and the amazingness of Nightside, and I think it it made it better. And I know earlier when I said their finest hour, oh yeah, the help me out, guys. The one on this album that we love, I Am the Black Wizards.
Yeah.
What I was referring to was the intro to that. The way that song begins is one of the best face-ripping beginnings I've ever seen. Ye Entrance Imperium, the first proper song on Anthems to the Welkin at Dusk, to me is one of those just perfection songs. That song alone, just, it has everything you could want. Epic choruses, headbanging parts, blasting parts, and you said it best, Pete, when you were saying about them being frightening but beautiful. What's the expression I used, Ryan, the other day? I was talking about a Wagnerian pomp, like Wagner.
Wagnerian pomp, yeah.
Wagnerian pomp, yeah. Like there is something so pompous and arrogant about the way this music comes out, and in the best possible manner. Mm-hmm. The marriage of those keyboards with the tremolo riffs, with the whole thing. There is not one weak filler moment on any of this, and it is one of the finest iterations of black metal ever, and it is my favorite Emperor album, Anthems to the Welkin at Dusk.
Well, I think we know which is Ryan's choice, right?
Well, I'm gonna go ahead and say that it is Kristen Whalen, Necrolord. It's my favorite artwork in all of heavy metal. I'm just gonna stupid light here. You got these orcs coming down the mountainside, going to this windswept castle. You have this classic piece, Death Rides a Pale Horse, which is actually copied from Gustave Doré, an old woodcut. Here's the castle here. The mountain, the clouds. The moon shining through. I actually got that tattooed on my arm there because that's how much I like fucking this emperor here. And this album, not only is it it's all the things you guys said. It's grandiose. It's massive. But it's also the two things which it does more than the other albums, which is why I put it at the number one spot, is it's fucking cold and it's fucking evil, which as much as bombastic and grandiose as some of the later stuff is, and I love it, this album is the one where it sounds like you're in a frozen forest, just like slowly succumbing to hypothermia, but the moon's out and it's beautiful, and it's so like fucking evil, which is, I guess the thing is a lot of the earlier, like the 80s bands, you take Celtic Frost, Hellhammer, early Bathory, Sarcophago, it's early Sodom, like some of the roots of black metal. That stuff was which I love all that stuff. It was usually very direct in Venom, very direct, very, kind of, very, song begins, middle, end. And this is one of the first bands, especially on this album, where they wrote these really like, big intricate compositions, which didn't really exist before in this kind of music before these guys really did it. Like even I love Dark Throne, but they really didn't hit that nail on the head. And Mayhem were kind of doing their own thing. So it was really Emperor that kind of like brought this, very well composed. It's not just verse, chorus, verse. Okay, just solo, the song's over. They really like the burning shadows of silence, cosmic keys to my creations and times. It's almost like it's like neoclassical woven into this extremely evil music. And I think this album probably does that better than any black metal album I've ever heard. And I've heard a lot of black metal albums. I don't think anything can really top that one. It's just that good.
The guitar tone.
Yeah.
It's like pure ice. It's
Razor
so amazing.
sharp. Yeah.
It's raw as hell. Like that ideal, like, when you say raw black metal, that's that album. But it's very clean, audible. You put it on headphones. All the details are there. You can hear all the drums, the bass. It's all there. It's just, raw and harsh in that, that black metal way, but like done perfectly.
Interesting how your LP's got like a darker tint of blue as opposed to the CD. I don't remember how the original LP looked, but
yeah, I have this.
Yeah,
it's true. Yeah, because mine's like very. I don't know. I'm kind of curious about that, but I want to look that up after this. Yeah, I didn't even notice that until this very moment when I saw them side by side.
And I'm wondering, like, it almost might be easier to decipher everything that's on the cover with it being darker, like on yours,
Yeah, this is actually it's super clear and legible. Like you can really pick out the details on this. Not that the other ones are bad, but I don't know if this is the original one. I'm not really sure. I'm not one of those. I have to have the first press of them, so I'm not quite sure what press this is. I just know that it's a mint condition copy because I like a nice clean final copy. But that's all I could tell you. So I'll have to do some research into that.
Cool. Well, my number one, no surprise here, is Anthems to the Welkin at Dusk from 1997. I mean, you guys both said it. It's one of the greatest black metal albums of all time. I think, as kind of raw and maniacal as that first one is, and still pretty majestic, I think this album really showed that black metal could be kind of artful, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I agree with that.
I mean, you got some juggernauts on this album. You got Ye and Transiperium. You got Thus Spake the Night Spirit, which to me, is there a Cradle of Filth without that song or this album? I mean, it's almost
Probably
like they took their entire shtick based off of this. Ensorcelled by Chaos. I mean, again, it's got that light and shade thing going on. The Loss and Curse of Reverence is just absolutely crushing. The Acclamation of Bonds, With Strength I Burn. I mean, just, again, you got the use of clean and harsh vocals working really well together. Tons of keyboards, just ragged, jagged guitar riffs, these great epic arrangements. And, they look pretty cool as hell in the back there. So, yeah, that's my favorite. But again, I think we can all say these are all our favorites, right?
They're all good. They are all good albums.
Yeah.
So, and I do want to mention, and Ryan's got it on vinyl. They released 2 EPs, right? Which they put on one, right? So this is
this is and here's that Gustave Doré art again, which was this is the Emperor EP, which also was on the split with Enslaved Ordain's Land. It was the same 4 songs.
Yeah.
And it's also their demo, which you want to talk about raw, Wrath of the Tyrant. It sounds fucking raw as hell. Great, like evil as hell. Much less composed than the albums, much more primitive. It's the first demo. Much more in line with some of the 80s bands I mentioned, just like primitive bashing, violent, very raw black metal. But yeah, this is good stuff too, because they don't really have a lot of material. So
yeah, right. And that's the lineup that's got Isan, Samoth, Faust on drums, and Mortus on bass, which is one of the early lineups. And there's the guys looking all sorts of spooky ass on the back, right?
You got torches, you got spikes, you got spiked club there, wearing robes and shit. Yeah, looking evil as fuck.
Not for the faint of heart, that early stuff, right?
No, it is not.
He sounds like an absolute wraith during was Night of the Graveless Souls.
Oh,
that's
yeah,
like ripping. That's like kind of like a Venom song. Yeah, but he's still got the keyboard in there that that really flamboyant keyboards going on, where you could see which direction they were going to go. So just an incredible band. I mean,
it's amazing how many bands though took that kind of whole
thing.
Oh yeah,
and because that style really did start to draw attention of a lot of people. I mentioned Cradle of Filth before. They started bringing it to the masses in a weird way. And then you had Dimmu Borgir, about a decade later, starting to do big business, basically doing the same type of thing. It's like they didn't start it, right? They just kind of piggybacked on the whole thing. But people finally woke up a little bit.
I got no problems. Not a big Dimmu fan, but I got no problems with Cradle. But yeah, these guys definitely they did it first and they did it best, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, in those days in the 90s, there was a line drawn by I'd say by the mid 90s, latter 90s. It was, if you used keyboards, you were took your manliness down a level. But Emperor always did it in a way that was elegant, and just you couldn't, stupid opinion isn't going to matter. The way they did their keyboard usage was so fucking just classically trained.
It was always interesting when people took that stance, because you had all these great Emperor albums. You had Borknagar was doing it from the beginning, Satyricon was doing it from the beginning. These are all considered classic bands, so it's not like this is a novel concept here. And to people on that style is
even in the 80s, there's been keyboards all along. I never understood that. You had weird Czech bands like Master's Hammer, their early stuff. There's keyboards in there. There's orchestration. There's weird stuff going on. It's always been there. I think people that held that opinion just I don't think they knew any better.
No, they didn't. It's true, but I think hindsight has kind of gotten us away from all that. I think when you look at black metal now, and you look at what Emperor contributed to it, basically lifeblood of the genre. You know, you can't fuck with anything they did. Yes, a lot of people didn't really like stick with his solo stuff. I like it, but you know, he's not the same person he was when they did this. And I think honestly, they play a lot of live concerts as Emperor, and more power to him. I got to see that in Montreal in 2018 outside, and there had just been a thunderstorm, and the storm was moving away. So Emperor began, and there was still lightning coming down, like in the distance. That was one of the coolest fucking moments ever. But you know, and I think they did. I think Ishan respected the Emperor logo by knowing it was time to move on to his own stuff and leave it in the past, creatively, because he didn't shit on his legacy.
I was gonna say, people have asked him, and he's done interviews. He's like, people have all made all kinds of offers for new Emperor material.
Yeah,
and he said, like, I'm not that guy anymore. It's too long. Like, what would a new Emperor album sound like? You want me to rewrite one of these 4 albums? You know, nobody wants that. And if I did something new, it's not going to sound like this. So what's the point of that? So he's smart enough to, like, we'll play concerts for people that want to hear it, but I'm not going to write any new material, which I respect that approach. Because
he's a lot of people who listen to his solo albums are not necessarily Emperor fans.
Right.
Yeah, it's gone off in he's definitely gone in a different direction, which is good, because you know, he could keep putting albums out under the Emperor name forever and make money, but you know, he's wise and smart enough not to do that.
And he told me that personally, because I interviewed him a couple of years ago. And you know, and I asked, I wasn't like, oh, you're gonna make a new Emperor album, but I brought it up. I was like, well, you know, what do you think? And he said exactly that. He's like, it just wouldn't be genuine to the you know, it wouldn't be genuine to the name, to the feeling, the atmosphere in these albums. And I respect the hell out of him for that. And then we went on to talk about what it's like to have daughters, which was a very interesting. This is a guy that I look at as like this demonic musician and we're like, oh yeah, my daughter's a pain in the ass. You know, he's a very cool, down to earth guy.
Cool. Yeah. Well, there you have it, everybody. Ranking the albums of Emperor. Let us know if you're a fan. Let us know how you would rank these 4 albums. If you've never really listened to the band, go check them out. Report back. Let us know what you think. Definitely one of the best black metal bands ever to grace the planet, and hope you enjoyed the show. Visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter. Of course, we're here on YouTube all the damn time. I want to thank Ryan Skow and Nick Franco for joining me on this special episode of Emperor today. And more stuff coming up on the channel, so don't touch that dial. We'll see you all real soon. For Ryan and Nick, I am Pete Pardo. Good night, everybody.